Whakalofa good evening, Eli Ikile here. So, it's a rainy night here in Auckland, South Auckland. It's also quite beautiful. My wife hates this weather. I tend to like it. I don't know why. So she hates this weather. I like this weather. I think it works out pretty well, but it is what it is. So that's not what we're here to talk about, of course. I just wanted to be able to have a bit of a chat soon, so more of our people come online. One of the great things as well is I'm back. I'm back. I was banned. I was banned from Facebook for 24 hours, and if you would like to know the reason why, I'll let you know. The reason why I was banned from Facebook was because I screenshotted the guy who called me an iffy nigger piece of and I screenshotted that and I put that up, and then I got a warning for that one, and then the one where Stuff decided to plaster that girl's face with drag queen makeup and then try to push that on children as if drag adult entertainment is somehow good for children. That was the second warning, and then I got blocked for 24 hours. So Mark Thomas, yo, Helen Houghton, yo, Elliot, where you been? Blocked, Helen, blocked. Hi, Stephen. Now, my mouth is doing that thing which is horrible, so give me a second here. All right. Now, this helps protect against that. Well done. All right, very good. Thank you, Nadia. Hi, how are you? Good to see you, Paul. Very good, very good. Excellent. Can't trust the left-wing media. Trust the left-wing New Zealand media. Yes, Michael, I'll lean towards you saying that one. I absolutely agree. Let's see, Helen. Brother, give me that due details. Oh, wait. Oh, thank you, Michael. I appreciate that, but that's fine. Don't worry. It's all good. I think he's in the South Island anyway. It's fine. And you know what? Michael's also like me. He's in South Auckland. And this is the thing, you've got a lot of the leftists who say, oh, we're going to get you. We're going to get you. But they don't come down here. Most of them are in nice, lovely, sort of environments where they won't come here. It just doesn't. How dare you take my limelight? Sorry, Jan. I apologise for that. Jan's doing a wonderful job down in Taupo. Very excellent. Very, very excellent. So great to see you guys here. Okay, so let's have a chit chat, eh? Thank you, Jim James. Yes, absolutely right. Yep, we're gunning hard. All right, so what I wanted to have a very quick discussion on was the Advance New Zealand, and more specifically, the fact that they were taken out, that the Facebook has blocked them. Now, I understand that Facebook has a particular quota, and then after that they just will block. But I find it really unacceptable for Facebook, which is supposed to be a platform, not a publisher, to actually decide that they are the arbiters of truth and that they will just cancel a party that is going, and 1 or 2 days before election itself. I find that absolutely reprehensible. It's wrong. They should not do that. You can, if you want to do it after the elections, great, do it then. But to do it in a day or 2 days beforehand is actually wrong. I find that to be an absolute foulness of democracy to start to interfere in that. And the argument has been made before, and I don't necessarily agree with this, but I have heard the argument made that, hey, look out for foreign interference into our political system. And of course, the big one is, the CCP, the Communist Party of China, or the Russians, or, whatever we hear from over in the US, for example. But what you're seeing is, in essence, a bit of political interference from the US, not even the US system itself, but rather are they a platform or are they a publisher? Facebook. And that's actually a real big one. Are they a platform or are they a publisher? If they're a platform, then the idea is that you put up a structure there, and then people put out what they believe and what they find it, and then people will engage in them in discourse, and then they'll agree or disagree. And if you're a publisher, okay, sure, then you can be like a News Hub or Spinoff or the so-called the so-called unbiased rest of the media. And it's wrong to actually take away what they did to advance. I think it was really wrong. And I think it does bear sort of a discussion, because it is pretty problematic, I think. So let's have a chat about certain things, because, and this is where it gets a bit tough, because I wanted to have a chat anyway. I was blocked, and then suddenly now I'm back. But now, of course, Advance is not here for a little while. If any of the Advance people are out there, don't forget you can just totally make a new page and actually bring back your bits and pieces then. My encouragement only, is maybe ease up on the more out there sort of stuff, just so that you don't breach the rules of Facebook. That's all. And before I start this other discussion, if you are voting Advance, go hard, man. Vote Advance. It's your vote. You choose where you put your vote. No problem. You go for it. And I think that's really important as well. But I have had heaps of chats and heaps of questions, especially about one particular meme. And also I'm getting more and more questions on New Conservative and Advance. Now, to be fair, and I mean this with absolutely no disrespect, I punch up. So when I've engaged in pretty robust discourse, I will do it towards ACT, or I'll do it towards National, or Labour, or Greens, or someone like that. So, we punch up. I don't see too much of a point of getting to a robust discussion about parties who are fledging, who are starting to come up. That's fine. Yes, I do believe, and I'll answer one the question right now. Yes, I do believe that that Advance / NZPP has taken a lot of our policies, but that's sort of normal. And we've seen National take a policy of ours. We've seen ACT take a few of our policies. So that's okay. That's not a problem. We're fine with it. I've spoken to a couple of the guys close to the Advance leadership, and I've told them as well. So I'm not saying anything that I say here, no problem. Happy for it to go wherever it needs to go, or wherever it should go. It's something which I'm just about. Right. Okay. So I'm going to try to also answer questions that I can. Pop along there. New Zealand First votes to be gobbled up as they won't reach 5%. Yes, you're right. New Zealand First will not reach it. I'm sure you saw this as well. Bit of a humorous thing is that Judith Collins was sort of bagging New Conservative tonight. She was saying, New Conservative wasted vote. You know what I heard? You know what I smelled? Was blood in the water. If you've got a so-called massive party, and then they start talking about other parties who are supposed to be small, that shows a very keen edge of, I won't say desperation, but I'd say concern. You had, of course, the I am a Christian, when she was repeating I am a Christian at the last debate, when we know that the voting record has her at odds with what usual biblical values are, family values are. You've seen that there has been a push to come onto the base of our constituency, our voters. And it's been wonderful, just honouring to also hear so many endorsements and encouragements by various people, whether it's church leaders, deacons, elders, whether it's people out there on the street. In fact, I even had a bit of a nice chat with a Muslim guy yesterday, and again, they're pro-family, because they know that we are so pro-family. It's not even funny, so it's really, really good. So I loved it when I heard Judith Collins sort of talking trash on New Conservative. Oh, woo! It was like, mate, there's blood in the water, buddy. There's blood in the water. And it just shows, they've gone so far away from their conservative values. They've left their conservative values. They've left them. Even the zero carbon bill, that's a left-wing economic policy. Even that's like, oh gosh, why would you do that? However, by the by, so why not just reform into a Christian conservative party? That's from Tanith. Thank you, Tanith. Basically, New Conservative is a conservative party where you will find the ideas that we are very strongly aligned, or if not actually directly and 100% in line with family policies, and that can be proven by the value your vote resource. The reason being is that our conservatism is Western conservatism, and Western conservatism, of course, is Greek democracy, Judeo-Christian principles and ethics. That's what it is. And so when you do look at that, that's why we're also really strong. We absolutely find it despicable that whether you're atheist or Christian or Sikh or agnostic or whatever, removal of Jesus from prayer was actually quite disgusting, because what it shows is that they are seeking to change the very culture and ideology that we hold to. So, but we would not put it into a Christian. I would struggle really a lot with it. Two reasons. One, Graham Capel, and I don't think anything needs to be said more than that. Two, and this is me, I I breach and I break my very belief structure, the ideas of perfection. I break it every single day. I'm not perfect, and I know you're not perfect as well. I am not perfect, and I will break it every day. For me to then say I am a Christian party, I would struggle with it. Me personally, I would struggle with it. Others would be able to find it and they'll be able to carve their thinking around it, but I can't. So I do apologize. I hope that's okay. That's just me again. All right. So two ticks. Oh, thank you so much. Woo-hoo! We have got the numbers. Just believe. Absolutely right, Susan. You're totally right. Okay, what do we got here? What are your views on environmental care for those who usually vote Greens for environmental concerns? How do you convince them New Conservative is a good vote? One of the great things about conservatism is that we conserve the environment. We're conservationists. And you know what we are? We are. The fact of the matter is that, when we talk about environmental care, New Zealand, at the moment, New Zealand is very much a virtue signaling aspect. Why? Because what we're doing is we're importing all of our coal, or most of our coal, into New Zealand. We're not greener. We're not somehow this beautiful area that the Greens and Labour want to pretend like. We're not. We import so much of the stuff over here. And so we say, oh, hey, if I can't see it, I don't care. Can't hear, can't see, don't care. But New Conservative do acknowledge that we are actually even interrupting and engaging in it. So what we say is this: instead of actually brutalizing another environment out there, usually China, let's do it here. We've got coal and we've got iron and zinc. We've got all the metals in New Zealand. We can do ours more sustainably, more safer. We don't going to be using no child labours or anything like that. We will engage in an environment that we can actually have a much better outcome for not just the environment, but for our families to engage. So we would actually start to go back into looking at oil and mining. The rest of the world does it. Just don't think that we're not engaging in that, because we import all that stuff in here. So we say, let's do it ourselves. We can do it cleaner, better, safer, and we can also have an outcome that's going to be much, much nicer. We can actually pretty things up afterwards. Doesn't have to be the whole barren wasteland sort of style of mining. It really doesn't. Also, we would say, let the farmers engage in the pollution solutions. Our farming community and the research and development that we have in New Zealand is powerful, just absolutely powerful. Instead of actually having those billions of dollars that are leaving our economy, we would say, instead of sending that to the United Nations, no, stop, repurpose those billions of dollars back into New Zealand and allow our people, New Zealanders, to fix our own emission issues and pollution issues. Not when that happens, what happens? Suddenly you've got a more tradable market that you can sell overseas, and you will bring down the emissions because our people know our land best. Not only that, once you've got a beautiful innovation screen, boom, you slap a made in New Zealand sticker on it and you sell that overseas. Incoming money, incoming money, incoming money. It's not rocket science. It's just normal sort of thinking, really. Barbara, yes, National left me high and dry. I'm thankful that New Conservative has taken the middle ground. Oh! And fill that vacuum. 2 ticks from NC from me yesterday. Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Let's see. Voted 2 ticks today. Thank you so much. I am voting for Josh Morgan. Oh, awesome. That's great. Yeah. Josh Morgan, great guy. Hey, you know what? Why is it that the media have been really dissing our Māori candidates? We've got awesome candidates, and the media really have been doing a disgraceful job in terms of ignoring them. That's unfair. That's wrong. They shouldn't be doing that. What's wrong with our people? What? So Māori, but if you're conservative, somehow you're not actually valid person. Hmm. Anyway, whatever happens this weekend, stay tuned, because in actual fact, that little gap there is something of great importance. So, right, let's head back. Head back to advance. This is a late night chat, guys, so I'm prone to go on to tangents. So what I want to say, however, is in terms of advance, great one. I really wish that they were back. I'm sure they can be. Because of the unfairness of what's happened, I am more than happy to even debate with advanced people. I think it's great. I think it's healthy for any democracy to engage in that. I do apologize if it sounds disrespectful if I am saying that I punch up, that I don't punch down. I hope that's not too offensive for you who do advance. I've got friends, actual friends, who actually support advance, and even I disagree, but I still love and respect them. So if you are voting advance, go hard, man. Don't think that I'll think any less of you. I'll disagree with you, but I will not think less of you. All right, so that's awesome. Now, in terms of advance, yes, I have been kept on getting asked this question: why have you not set up with advance and NZPP? Firstly, there is no such thing as NZPP. Um, Again, I should do this as a disclaimer at the start, shouldn't I? Sometimes I can speak a little bit without nicety. Sometimes I'm a little bit rough. So if I speak rough, I don't mean to be rough. It's just sort of how I roll. So there's no such thing actually as NZPP. NZPP doesn't exist as a registered party, but Advance does. So what you've got is those who are part of what they refer to as NZPP aren't. They are actually part of Advance, and that's the way in which those votes will go. That's really fine. You've got the co-leaders who are Jamie Ross and also Blita Kahika. And speaking, yes, now I met with Billy on the morning or the lunchtime of his first public speech when he went to the yacht club. We had fish and chips. It was very tasty, yummy fish and chips. But the fish and chips were something like $22 each. So I'm just saying, $22 for fish and chips. So, hey, that's fine, no worries. So we had fish and chips, and yeah, you're really smart guy, intelligent. I did not like the model that he came up with. It just seemed a little bit too much like Amway. What it was you would have Billy at the top, then Billy's choice for a deputy leader was deputy leader, and then every party who would chunk in underneath, their leader would then be referred to as another deputy leader, but then they'd be numbered or something like that. So everyone would be deputy leader. Now that, for me, that just didn't make any sense to me. You're a deputy leader, that's it, or vice, or whatever you want to call it. You don't have this odd system of that. So I said, thank you so much, really appreciate it, but no, we won't. The model's not a very good model. No problem. He went off, had his yacht club, and had a chat there. This is something which I don't really like talking about too much, because I will say Paula Penfold did her stuff article research, and then she pretty much slammed Billy Takahika with it. I don't know if most of that is correct or not. I don't know. I do know a little bit about some of the business dealings. I can at least attest to speaking to some friends who were engaged in some of the businesses that were engaged in terms of Fiji and Samoa. And I can tell you at least that they're definitely not happy. They definitely are not fans of Billy. Take from that as you will. It's just something that we do. Whenever we sit down with someone who we may build bridges with in the future, we just do background checks. So I have no idea as to the stuff article as to how correct or incorrect it was. All I know is that when I did my own little background checks, I did come across some red flags given to me by people in Samoa and Fiji, and it was around business dealings. So take from that as you will. It's up to you one way or the other. That's fine. So we had that, and then we had a chat, and then we did that moving forward. Then Billy then met up with Jamie Ross, and then they joined up, and then we were sent another message saying, hey, you want to come on board? Here's what we'll do. Bang, 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 bang. We said no, we're not a big fan of that. We did send a message to Billy on the side, and we said, Billy, look, no worries. We can work with you. We are able to work in that regard. However, with all due respect to Mr. Ross, we won't work with Mr. Ross. There's too many issues in regards to the serious fraud office in terms of the issues around women, both the admitted stuff as well as the alleged stuff, and also even the females in his staff, that there's been problematic issues going on there. We just can't do that. So that's the message that we sent. He said no, and no problem. All respect due, go hard, and that's fine. That's actually why. So that's why we would never or did not merge in that regard. We can't in that regard. There are certain elements that we just won't do. And with all due respect to Mr. Ross, his voting record is quite horrific when it does comes to family, and I suppose for many of our people who are Christian, in terms of church voting as well as family voting. So if you're a family-based person or if you're a church-based person, the voting record of Mr. Ross is quite horrific. It's really bad. Now I have heard, yes, I have heard that we're all on a journey and Jamie Ross has changed his ways and all that sort of stuff. I don't believe that. And look, I'm a skeptic. Part of the reason why I'm a Christian is because I'm a skeptic, in actual fact. I'm a skeptic on pretty much everything. It's just the way that my brain was sort of wired up, I suppose. I am a natural skeptic. So when someone tells me, yes, Jamie Lee Ross, he's now mixed in with Billy Te Kahika, they've got advance in NZPP, and Jamie Lee Ross has, he apologized for going for the most brutal abortion bill and all that sort of stuff. I don't believe it. I don't believe that. Now, that doesn't mean I'm calling his character necessarily into question. I'm just calling the fact that he's switching into political stuff. And so I don't think that he has. That is my own belief. And it's just what I believe. Because I've never seen that trajectory at all. And I have looked at Mr. Ross's voting record going back even further than the last few years. There is no great... there's no road to Damascus moment that's noticed. There's nothing in regards to that. Again, please, I'm not. This is nothing that I would not say to Mr. Ross or Mr. Kahika Te Kahika face to face. Kanohi ki kanohi. That's just how I sort of see it. So it's right. So in terms of what's going on there, let's have a look there. JLR, I don't think Olympic can change the spots. The only reason is to get votes. We do not need to speak of these parties. They have a completely different fan base. Yes, Athena, you're correct. It's just that I was asked. I've been asked so many times. So I've been asked so many times. I thought might as well have a chat about it. So the other one was a meme that came up, and so the question is: Advanced Party will oppose or reject the discriminatory rules around private companies or something like that. Okay. When it comes to private enterprises, and we believe that parents have the right to choose what goes in or does not go in to themselves and also their children. We absolutely oppose any form of mandatory vaccination. We absolutely oppose it. We also, however, oppose mucking around with the private sector as much as possible. When a government engages in the private sector, when the government overreaches into the private sector, that's actually starting to be the definition of socialism. That is actually the definition of socialism. When the government starts to reach into the means of production and manufacture and transactional power, that's actually where you find socialism. That's actually more closer to the definition of socialism. And so we don't like actually mucking around with that. So if you've got a ECE who is a private company and they'll say, right, if you want to come into here, no problem, then your vaccination record has to be all up to date. We accept that. We support that. If a private company and an ECE company says, if you come in here, we want it so that you've got no vaccination record, we support that. We support that. And that's really important. So it's really important. We support the private sector. Whenever the government starts to get in the way of the private sector, that's a problem. I can tell you quite clearly that if you have the situation that you have had in the US, for example, if you've got a florist and a gay couple have come in and say, oh, we want to have flowers at our gay wedding, and then the florist says, well, I'm a Christian or I'm a Muslim, and we hope you guys have well, and we hope that you have a great time and a great wedding, but because of our belief system, we cannot support this, which is quite anathema to our belief structure, then that company should have the right to discriminate in that regards. We discriminate all the time. You think about liquor stores. We discriminate against age. It's actually quite important. You look at contours. Contours discriminates against males. No male can go in there. That's fine. That's fine. We don't want to interrupt ourselves into the private sector too much. It becomes really problematic. So yeah, if a company wants to go for hard, if they want their kids to all be up to date with the vaccination, that's fine with us. If a company says no, don't have to worry about any vaccination, that's fine with us as well. We don't mind. That's the private sector, and that's how it works. Right. Jonathan came up with should church and state be separate, or should the church be under government? Now, great question. Now, the separation of church and state is a great question. Interestingly enough, many people say that the government needs to be kept safe from the church so that the church doesn't become a theocracy and we get like one of the more dodgy popes, several hundred years ago, nearly 1,000 years ago, I think. The concern that we have, though, is actually now that it's going the other way. The state is to be protected from the church, but the church is also to be protected from the state. Because don't forget, Western democracy, the idea of democracy and Judeo-Christian principles. And that is, of course, represented by the government, by the state, and represented by the church. And so we have a separation, and that's, again, that strong tension balance between the church and the state. Objective morality and governance structure. Neither is supposed to overtake the other. Neither is supposed to be able to destroy the other either. That's the idea of the separation aspect. But we are still supposed to have a governance structure and an objective morality structure. That's the idea of that whole separation. So it needs to be separated, but it is a separation that is part of, it is a combined, it is pillars that are put on either side of the house for the roof so that it doesn't fall down. That's why it's really important. That's also why it's quite disgraceful what we're seeing currently in this current system. So it's really, really big. Let's have a look here. What do we got? Religion does not belong in politics. Sam, great question. Religion does not belong in politics. Well, actually, politics, of course, is the rule, is the style of rule that we have. And someone who is very atheistic, someone who does not like any type of religion, they will bring that into their politics. Someone who is Hindu will bring that into their politics. Your belief system that you carry around with you, your worldview, that will engage also alongside in your politics. It's actually wrong to sort of say to someone you should be an empty sheet of paper. I'm broken homes. I come from solo parents, both sides. I come multiple broken homes. I carry that with me. How I view the world, how I react and how I identify issues, partly comes from I grew up in a broken home, that I did not have mum and dad living together. I did not have that. So the idea of religion, or growing up period, or culture level, or mixed blood, or even down to my neurological, whether I am a politician who is deaf or blind, or has only one arm in an accident, or whatever. We carry everything with us. So whenever I've heard that thing, religion and politics don't mix, or they should not be brought in together, actually, when you're talking about human beings, yeah, everything mixes in. Everything. So it's a really important one. All sort of backgrounds come into your politics. Clara, yep, absolutely right, Clara. Absolutely right. Everything comes in. Everything. The American ambassador, the US ambassador to New Zealand, is a great guy. He grew up in a really tough circumstance. His childhood was pretty brutal from what I've heard. I can't wait to meet him one day. I really can't wait. I'd love to have a chat with him, because also we've got a little bit apparently in terms of youth work. So that's really awesome. So I can't wait for that sort of thing. So yeah, you're absolutely right. New Conservative offers stability. Yes, Michael. Yes, we do. Don't forget conservatism. When you look at, yes, you've got the French Revolution style, or the French aspect of left and right. The left and right I find easier to understand is the idea of on the left. Now let's see, how are you looking at me? So you're looking at me there. I think that's on the right. We'll go here. Okay. So over here is a place where the state has the control. The government has the control. The government fixes everything. It's like a cure-all, all that sort of stuff. Over here is pure individualism, pure freedom, if you'd like. which we refer to as anarchy. So on the far right of the US style of political spectrum is very much pure freedom, and that's when individual rights. That means that if I want something and I kill you, then that's fine because that's my freedom. I can do that. That's my individual right. That's the extremity of the right. And then the extremity of the left is the idea that the state controls everything, controls every element of what you do, and that's when we're talking about the old, Soviet, the USSR, and those sorts of elements. Conservatism is the idea that we all come and they seek to take into the middle. Now that means that they restrain the excesses of both the individual as well as the government. Because of course, if you go too far into individualism, it becomes might makes right, my power over yours, and then that is fine. And then the other side is where the government rules all, and you cannot speak, think, feel anything different beyond what they say. And it's quite a horrific one. We've seen what happens when the state becomes everything. Conservatives are right in the middle. So conservatives, it was a true centre. The reason why is because we know that human beings are fallible. We know that we're all imperfect. We know that they will be strong and will be weak at certain times and different times in our lives. We know that. And so the system that we build must keep the excesses of the individual and the excesses of the government at bay, or in a tight tension balance. That's what conservatism is about. That's why we're stable. We keep the stability. We keep the protection. We advocate for the weak and the strong, and everywhere in between. We advocate for everyone in between that area. That's what's really big as well. So, Sam, what are NC thoughts on the LGBT community? I've heard many things, mainly negative. Yeah, you know what? It's late at night, so I'm going to be a bit open. I sometimes feel a bit sad as to how we keep getting hit with being you're homophobic, you transphobic people. So in the last around about 20 years, I've worked with, I'd say 30-ish trans kids, and I don't know how many of the gay kids, but they're all beautiful kids. Love them all. They're really, really cool. And so sometimes I worry that sometimes they're going to see some of the stuff that gets told about us, and they're going to say, "Look, see, they hate you," and I do worry sometimes that they're going to think, "Oh my gosh, Sir was Sir lying all those times that he just talked with us and all this stuff." No. I think in terms of LGBT, a lot of our stuff is, or the only really stuff there is that we hate gender ideology being put onto our children. It's the childhood aspect. Leave our children alone. That's all we say. Leave our children alone. If you have engaged in, if you've got a child, then the last thing that a child needs is to be encouraged to question their very gender, to be encouraged to question whether they're a boy or a girl. That is absolutely wrong. Our education system's already on the downhill track. What was it, about less than a month ago, we saw the stats, and they're scary stats. In the OECD, we're doing very poorly. We are doing very poorly, in actual fact. So how does it make sense to push upon our children to destabilize their psychological stability? Why would you do that? Empower parents. And if a child is presenting in, for example, gender identity disorder dysphoria, assist those children's ad hoc need. Help them one-on-one. That is fine. That's absolutely fine. And we would actually fund good quality counselling for that, because what we do know is that nearly 100% of kids who get good quality counselling, if they have gender identity dysphoria, they come back into line with their sex, and it's all fine. And often they'll end up being gay. That's something which does happen. But what is good is that they, almost every single one of them, does not move on to a area where they have surgery that splits penises, removes breasts, engages in lifelong hormone therapy. And it's the things that are pretty much you can't go back. I've heard of reversal surgeries, but it's never really a reversal. And if once they turn adult, go for it. Once you turn adult, if you want to engage in transgender operations, go for it. It's your life. You're an adult. You go for it. But when they're children, leave them alone. Teach them STEM subjects. Push the academia and assist children when they need it. That's really, really big, really important. So we don't really have anything else apart from that. Oh, I have heard, yes. Oh, you guys are against it because you're against gay marriage. No, we're not. We're actually for the exclusionary excellence of what works for children. So if you look at the three biggest longitudinal studies, that's the 70-year ones. If you want a young person who is mentally resilient or grows up to be mentally resilient, chooses good things, goes into a good workforce, gets into middle class, and then has their own kids in a much better situation, that is a married mum and dad home. Married mum and dad home. I didn't have that. I never had that. So don't think I'm coming from an angle where I don't know, I don't know what the other side looks like. Best place, married mum and dad home. We believe in the married mum and dad home, and our policies go towards encouraging that and assisting in terms of building them up. And that's what we're very strongly about. And that is an exclusionary relationship. We say this is the best form of marriage, and everything outside it, nah. If you're going to do something, make it a civil union or something like that. Keep marriage as a special place of excellence. And why? Because the children that come from such environments are statistically better or better off or more likely to do better than those other kids, including the families that I came up in. I went off the rails. I went into heavy drugs and girls and all sorts of very bad stuff. A lot of stuff I say, some stuff I'll only say to the youth that I'm working with, so to assist in their knowledge. And there's a couple of things that I'll probably never say. And there's stuff that I've got to live with. So it really is just about, this is a good marriage. Outside of that, no. So that's probably why people seem to think that we don't like gays or gay people, homophobe, transphobe, and all that sort of stuff. Your people. I will judge you, and we will judge you based off your actions, not the sexual orientation that you are, not the color of your skin, not the education level, not the income level that you carry on. If you're a Kiwi, you're a Kiwi. You therefore become a bit of a priority for us. But if you're a human being, nothing wrong with you. We will judge you by what you do to us, with our respect levels and things like that. So it's really, really important. So I think that's probably been good. Had a nice little chat. Agree, children need both their mum and dad, stable family, stable society, from Athena. Thank you, Athena. Absolutely right. Yes, you're absolutely right. I think that's us. Like I said, I just wanted to have a chat. I just wanted to say that it was absolutely wrong what happened to Advance. Facebook was absolutely wrong to do what they did. They should not have banned them, or if they were going to ban them, they should have said, right, after the election, we're going to ban your page or something like that. It was wrong, absolutely wrong to ban them 2 days out from the election. Just wrong. So I hope that they come back, and I hope that they make another page or whatever. And I think it'll be great. Always good to have a bit of a chit chat. So I'll do one more question. Sarah, what is New Conservative treaty policy view? Right. So Sarah, there are 3 articles to the treaty, not 4. I'm not talking to you. I'm just talking to other people who tell me there's 4 articles. No, there's not. There's 3. The first one, of course, is the price. Yes, kawanatanga. Yep. Tino rangatiratanga. And yes, I'm aware that the words were redefined in 1979, that they were redefined. And however, we say that the Te Reo Māori version is the one that we go by. It's a lot more simpler. It's the one that nearly 500 chiefs signed, and it's a real powerful one. So first one is the cost. That is the idea of jurisdictional authority given over, and that was confirmed in the days preceding, as well as the Kohimarama conference 20 years later. Second article is the nuance, is the negotiation. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is yours. And we can sell and buy, and if the government comes along, we can sell and buy. And a lot of the valid breaches actually come from the second article. Third article is my favorite. That's the one that says all peoples of New Zealand will be given the same rights and privileges as those of the British Empire. And that is a powerful one, especially if you know the historical context of the time. That is the one of where everyone should be treated the same, pretty much. It is, as Martin Luther King Jr. so eloquently puts it, that we will be judged not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. And that's a really vital one. Now we see, unfortunately, since the late 70s, early 80s, we've seen more and more racial segregation type laws, and racial segregation by power and privilege. I am Tātiawa Ngāti Raukawa. I'm also Tonga, Niue, and English. And I love all parts of myself. However, I do not want to be treated better than anyone else, and I do not want to be treated less than anyone else. Just treat me the same. And in actual fact, when we look at it, historically speaking, whenever you look at a place that's got affirmative action policies, and when they put one race above every other race, doesn't do very well, does it? My campaign manager is from Malaysia. She's a Malay. So she's what you would refer to perhaps as an indigenous Malaysian. So she's a Malay from Malaysia. And Malaysians have had affirmative action policies and racial segregation policies since the 50s, I think it is. And the race is not doing very well at all. The way in which we do better is when we're all treated the same, treated equally, and that we're able to move forward as one people. That's the way in which we go stronger. You want to know where Māori succeed the most? It's not New Zealand. It's Australia. Now, over in Australia, the income levels are something like over $26,000 more than they are here. And there's no affirmative action policy. There's no treaty. There is no racial segregation style law or institutionalized preference type policy over there. If you don't work, you don't eat. And if you have a look at the whakatauki, which is a Māori proverb, whakatauki, a lot of them about if you don't dig in for your yam, then you're not going to harvest it in the proper season. If you don't mend your nets, then you're not going to catch the fish. It's always about work ethic and building all that sort of stuff. And by having the system where we've treated Māori differently for so long, then no wonder why we have gone downhill pretty strongly. And many of you will know that I've spoken about this quite a lot. Targeted benefits. You want to break a people. Alcohol and drugs is only a small part. You want to really break a people, target your benefits towards them and make it easier for benefits to get. Welfare dependency breaks us a lot more than alcohol and drugs ever could, ever. And that's a pretty big one, that one. So, yeah. So our treaty policy is this. Get rid of any sort of law or policy that treats us differently. I am Te Ateo Ngāti Raukawa. Don't treat me any differently. Don't treat me any differently. Don't put a policy that makes me more important than you, that makes my quality of life more important than you. It's not. You are a Kiwi. We are the same. Doesn't matter what you are, who you are, your sexual orientation, your income level, your education level, whose family you were. No, it doesn't work that way. We believe in be treated the same. The only difference that we do say, however, is that we are willing to fund, to encourage the Te Reo Māori and Tikanga Māori. Not make it compulsory, not force it, but merely to encourage it and to make sure that it sticks around. It's always good in that regard. So, yeah, I think that's us. Yeah, good comments going on. I love to see it. So there's a late night chat. Again, if you're going to vote advance, go hard yakka, but make sure you vote. All right, and look, don't forget the referendums are powerfully important. You know where we stand. We are no on both. Why? Because many of us come from the field. We know what it does. We also do not believe that suicide is the answer. And what you'll find is overseas is that every single time euthanasia comes in, the suicide rates in the general population increase as well. As someone who has also spoken with young people on the ground who have been wanting to commit suicide and in a couple of cases have been in the action of committing suicide, I can tell you right now, you do not want euthanasia in New Zealand. I understand that it sounds like it's going to be nice. It's not. And I know that the idea is, well, I don't want to use it. I just want to have the option there. Yeah, what you're doing is you're opening it up for coercion, bullying, for people to kill themselves because they are lonely, anxious, hopeless, that they're scared, that they feel like a burden. And we can talk on and on and on about that. And I'm more than happy to engage in that in a later time. But for now, it's getting late. And it's been a great time. Thank you so much for chatting. Thank you so much for your comments. Keep going hard, Yakka. It's always wonderful. In the meantime, God bless you. God bless New Zealand.